What's good? My name is Charity Crawford. Recently, Candace Owens said this.
I want to come out and say that I do not support George Floyd and the media depiction of him as a martyr for Black America. I'm going to explain why, and I hope that some of you guys will understand where I'm coming from.
Well, first, Candace, let me stop you there. A martyr? What is the definition of a martyr? I'll tell you. Definition 1 is a person who voluntarily suffers death as the penalty of witnessing to and refusing to renounce a religion. Well, we know that that's not what he was because A, his death wasn't voluntary, and B, it had nothing to do with religion. Let's check definition 2. A person who sacrifices something of great value and especially life itself for the sake of a principle. Again, he did not willingly sacrifice anything. He was murdered. So no, we do not consider him a martyr, but he was a catalyst. A catalyst is defined as an agent that provokes or speeds significant change or action. The moment that the world saw his neck being kneeled on for 8 minutes and 46 seconds is the moment that we decided enough is enough. It is the moment that we said we would no longer tolerate the suffering, oppression, and execution of marginalized people. So no, he was not a martyr, but he was a catalyst. His death was the moment that we as a community said no more. Continue, Candace.
Shelby Steele said that the Black community is unique from other communities. Our culture is unique from other communities because we are the only community that caters to the bottom denominator of our society. Now let me explain what that means. It means to say that not every Black American is a criminal, not every Black American is committing crimes, but we are unique in that we are the only people that fight and scream and demand support and justice for the people in our community that are up to no good.
Candace, have you seen Scarface? Carlito's Way, The Godfather? What do you mean we are the only community that does this? And I won't even get into how this very country was founded and how many of those people we uplift, and what does this even have to do with George Floyd? No one is lifting him up specifically because of the person that he was. We're lifting him up because his murder represents the consistent overlooking of the humanity of Black people, the humanity of all Black people, even the ones that you may not like.
George Floyd was not an amazing person, and as soon as this video hit the internet, I did just basic searches. Everyone jumped on it and called.
Now see, this is exactly why we uplift him, Candace. So if someone watches this video and their first instinct is to do basic searches about the type of person that he was, can you see how people might interpret that as someone searching for reasons as to why the killing was justified? Do you see how that type of thought process, when enacted on a mass scale, could lead to systemic issues?
First and foremost, George Floyd at the time of his arrest was high on fentanyl and he was high on methamphetamine.
Candace.
When he is put into handcuffs and is put against the wall, a baggie of what looks to be like cocaine or it's white. It's a white baggie that he drops onto the floor that you can see in an image if you look up the clip.
Candace.
Barring all of that, nobody thinks that he should have died during this arrest, but what I find despicable to be is that everyone is pretending that this man lived a heroic lifestyle when he didn't, and I want to talk about what his lifestyle was leading up to this moment and why I refuse to accept the narrative that this person is a martyr or should be lifted up in the Black community and that we should be buying t-shirts with his name on it, okay?
Okay, Candace, so before you start listing off this man's entire history to potentially illustrate some sort of long-standing criminal past, let's talk about something. I don't know where you filmed this video, but if it is in the United States of America, then I can guarantee that the very land that you stand on was once the sovereign land of Native American people. And the truth is, the descendants of those people whose land you currently stand on are probably not even around to claim said land because most of their ancestors were massacred so that you could stand there. And not even you, because judging by your amazing brown skin, I can tell that at the time of this genocide, your ancestors and my ancestors were not even considered humans at all. And you're right, Candace, the men that committed this genocide, these massacres, this subjugation, the enslavement of an entire people, the men that committed these criminal atrocities aren't typically put on the front of t-shirts. You're right. But their faces are literally carved in the sides of the very mountains in which they stole.
What I find despicable to be is that everyone is pretending that this man lived a heroic lifestyle when he didn't.
Why don't you find it despicable that everyone's saying that these men lived a heroic lifestyle when they didn't?
So in my opinion, George Floyd was a criminal. He was a criminal. And just because he was a criminal doesn't mean he deserved to die at the knee of a police officer. But it does mean that I am not going to play a part of the broken Black culture that always wants to martyr criminals, who wants to pretend they were these upstanding human beings that just wanted to help society.
We just had this conversation, Candace. I will not repeat myself.
But why are we pretending that this criminal should be upheld as a citizen of a...
Even though I understand that you probably didn't mean to say what you just said right there, I still want to talk about that language. You said, why are we pretending that this criminal should be upheld as a citizen? Candace, do you understand how that language, the idea that a criminal should not be upheld as a citizen, do you understand how that can be interpreted as dehumanizing language? As if someone being a criminal makes them no longer a citizen. Again, maybe you didn't mean to say it like that, Candace, but this is why we uplift him. This is why we make people repeatedly say his name, to affirm his humanness, Candace.
Racially motivated police brutality is a myth, okay? So let's get into that.
I don't have the time or care to get into this conversation with you, but just know that it is not a myth, and maybe we can have that conversation another time.
Last year, a total of 9 unarmed black men were killed by police officers, and 19 white men were killed by police officers. For those of you that aren't good at mathematics, right, you might be thinking, oh, but Candace, white people represent 60% of the population and black people represent just 13% of the population. It doesn't matter what percentage of the population you represent. It matters what percentage of the violent criminal community you represent. And unfortunately, black community commits a disproportionate amount of crimes compared to the white community. Let me tell you, 6% of the population, right, black men, 6% of the population account for 44% of all murders in this country, according to 2018 statistics. That is what you call a gap. And yet white people who represent 60% of the population, we represent 13, black men are 6%, only represent 50% of all the murders, right? That makes no sense.
Actually, none of what you just said makes any sense, Candace, and here's why. You started your statement off by saying that 9 unarmed black men were killed last year. Then you went on to say that that's sensible because black men account for 44% of all murders. What does that statistic have to do with the conversation about unarmed black men who are not murderers being killed? The only reason that I can imagine that someone would bring up black male murderers in a conversation about unarmed black people who are being killed would be to justify the idea that officers are particularly focused on policing black people. But that couldn't be what you meant, because you just said that racially motivated police brutality is a myth. And make no mistake about it, that would be racially motivated if police are doing that. But let's forget all of that. You want to know what's really interesting about your video? You repeatedly pointed out aspects about the black community that you find despicable, even though these exact same traits are etched into the legacy of white American history. The reason why that's so interesting is because if you've done any research on oppressed communities, you'll find that the telltale sign of an oppressed population is that they often find faults within their own community that they rarely observe in the communities that oppressed them. That being said, the very act of you creating this video is clear evidence of you yourself being affected by the very oppression that you don't even believe exists. And so, ironically, this movement that's seeking justice for George Floyd is kind of also seeking justice for you, Candace Owens. Finally, I'll say this. At the moment that I'm responding to you, your video has almost 100 million views. A large portion of the people that are sharing your video are white people that agree with your sentiments. Many of these people are not courageous enough to receive the backlash that would come from publicly stating their opinion. So instead, they have the privilege to use your black face as a tool to dog whistle their beliefs amongst each other. So now they don't have to have these tough conversations. They don't have to receive any backlash because they have you to take those lashes for them. So it's interesting that you consider George Floyd a martyr when you are the actual dictionary definition of a martyr. You have voluntarily sacrificed yourself on behalf of them. So my only question is, do you think that they would return the favor? If you ever began to echo sentiments that they disagree with, would they still see you and uphold you as a brilliant black woman? I don't know. But to everybody watching this, even you, Candace, I love you. Yo, I got a special announcement. I am finally writing my book. It is a transformative piece about transcending oppression. It's about justice. It's about empathy, love. It's about making the self better while simultaneously making the society better. And if you want to help me bring it to the world, please click the link in my bio to donate to my GoFundMe so that I can get this to as many people as possible. I really need your help. I appreciate y'all so greatly for always supporting me. This is finally the piece that I've been waiting for years and years to finally push forward. Click the link in my bio. Donate as much as you want to the GoFundMe, whatever is comfortable for you. And please help us bring this piece to the world and create some real change. I'm so grateful for you. I thank you. I know you're going to love this book. I love you.